My name is Anna, and I just turned 19 when everything started falling apart. Growing up, I thought my family was pretty normal. It was just me, my younger brother who's 6 years younger than me, and our parents. Dad worked as a manager at my mom's family business, a company my grandfather built from scratch. It started as a small chain of coffee shops and eventually became a big, well-known coffee company. Grandpa was a hard worker, and when he retired, he didn't sell the business. Instead, he offered it to Mom. I remember hearing that conversation. Mom said, "I'm happy being a housewife. Let Paul handle it." So Dad took over, and life continued. It wasn't until I became a teenager that I started noticing problems in our family. Mom and Dad argued more and more. Mom seemed to pick at everything Dad did or didn't do, like she wanted to make him angry. Then, when he finally got upset and raised his voice, she'd act like the victim. She'd cry to anyone who would listen, saying, "I'm just trying to keep this family together," and he yells at me. I didn't know what to think. I loved both my parents, but watching them fight was unbearable. My brother was too young to understand, but I could see the confusion and fear in his eyes whenever they argued. One night, things got really bad. I was in my room, trying to block out their fighting with music, when I heard a loud crash. My heart started racing, and I ran downstairs. What I saw changed everything. Mom was on the floor, screaming that Dad hit her. Dad looked desperate and said, "I didn't touch her, Anna. She fell, and I was trying to help her up." But Mom was already on the phone, calling the police. I stood there, frozen, not knowing who to believe or what to do. That night, when Dad was taken away by the police, is something I'll never forget. I couldn't sleep. My mind was filled with questions. What really happened? Could Dad have hit Mom? Why would Mom lie if he didn't? The next few days were a blur. Dad was released without any charges, and Mom, in what she called an act of kindness, dropped the complaint. But things weren't the same. The tension in the house was unbearable. Mom wouldn't stop talking about how bad Dad was, saying things like, "He's always had a temper, and I've been protecting you and Jack from the worst of it." The divorce happened so quickly, I barely had time to understand. One day, Dad was packing a small suitcase looking lost. "I'm sorry, kids," he said, his voice shaky. "I'll make this right, I promise." But how could he? Mom got everything in the divorce: the house, the car, even Dad's job at the company. He was left with nothing. After Dad left, Mom sat Jack and me down for a talk. "Things will be different now," she said, smiling, but it didn't seem real. "Your father can't hurt us anymore. We're safe." Jack, being young and confused, asked, "When is Dad coming home?" Mom's face changed for a second before she forced a smile again. "Oh, sweetie, Dad needs time to work on himself. But we'll be just fine without him." I had a feeling something wasn't right, but every time I asked Mom about it, she'd shut me down. "You're too young to understand, Anna," she'd say. "Adult relationships are complicated." Then, just 4 months after the divorce, Mom surprised us again. "Kids, I have wonderful news," she announced. "I'm getting married." I was shocked. Married? But it's only been 4 months. Mom cut me off, saying, "When you find true love, you just know." Billy and I, it was love at first sight. I felt sick. How could she move on so fast? What about Dad? What about us? Billy, my new stepdad, moved in soon after. He was okay, I guess. He didn't pay much attention to me, but he and Jack got along well. They'd laugh and play video games together, and I felt even more left out. Meanwhile, Mom took over the family company and brought Billy in to work with her. They were always talking about business and making plans while Jack and I faded into the background. I felt lost, stuck between the family we used to be and this new life I didn't know how to accept. Watching Mom and Billy act all lovey-dovey at the dinner table, with Jack happily chatting away, made me feel like I didn't belong. I couldn't stop wondering where I fit in now and what really happened between Mom and Dad. Just when I thought things couldn't get any more complicated, Mom dropped another surprise on us. She and Billy decided to move the company's main office to another city, which they said would be better for business. They were going to transfer all the money to this new part of the company. At first, I didn't think much of it. Sure, moving would be hard, but at least we'd be together, right?
Wrong.
One evening, while I was doing my homework, Mom knocked on my door. Anna, honey, you know Billy and I are moving for work, right? Yeah, when do we leave? I asked, already thinking about packing. Mom's face changed in a way I didn't understand. That's the thing, sweetie. The new house isn't very big, and since you're almost done with high school, we thought it would be better if you stayed here. I felt like I'd been punched. Stay here? What about Jack? Jack's younger. He needs us more, Mom said quickly. Besides, you wouldn't want to switch schools right before your exams, would you? We think it's best if you stay with your grandpa. I couldn't believe it. They were leaving me behind. But Mom, I want to be with you and Jack. Can't we find a bigger place? Mom's tone became firm. Anna, this decision is final. It's for the best. Trust me. And just like that, my world flipped upside down again. Within weeks, Mom, Billy, and Jack were gone, and I moved in with Grandpa. Don't get me wrong, Grandpa is great, but I felt abandoned, like I didn't fit in their new life anymore. Not long after, my 20th birthday came. I foolishly hoped that maybe Mom and Billy would come back for it, but no, they were too busy with work. Grandpa, bless him, threw me a party and let me invite my friends. It wasn't the same, but I appreciated it. The morning after my birthday, Grandpa called me into his office. He looked serious as he handed me a small folder. Happy birthday, Anna, he said with a smile. This is my gift to you, now that you're of age. Confused, I opened the folder and started reading the papers inside. My jaw dropped as I realized what they were. Grandpa, this is... He nodded, smiling. That's right, kiddo. I'm giving you the company. I was stunned. Me, running a whole company at 20? But Grandpa, I don't know anything about running a business, I said. He chuckled. You've got potential, Anna. I see it in you. You'll learn, and I know you'll do great things. Then he got serious again. There's one more thing. I think you should reconnect with your father. Maybe bring him on as a consultant. He knows the business, and I think there are things you need to hear from him. I hesitated. After everything Mom had told me about Dad, I wasn't sure I wanted to see him. But Grandpa had never led me wrong before. I met Dad at a small cafe downtown. My stomach was in knots as I walked up to the table. Dad stood up, giving me a hesitant smile. He looked older and more tired than I remembered. Anna, he said, his voice warm but careful. I understand you're angry. Your mother probably told you a lot about me. Yeah, she did, I snapped. How you were abusive, how you hit her. How could you, Dad? He took a deep breath. Anna, what your mother told you isn't true. I need you to hear what really happened. For the next hour, Dad told me a story that left me shaken. He explained how Mom had deliberately provoked him, pushing his buttons until he couldn't take it anymore. The night I saw her on the floor, she had staged the whole thing. Your mother took back her police statement in exchange for me giving up everything in the divorce, Dad said, his voice full of pain. She set me up, Anna. She wanted it all, and she got it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But why would Mom do that? Why didn't you fight back? Dad pulled out his phone and played an audio recording. Mom's voice came through, cold and calculating. Paul, here's the deal. You leave quietly, sign everything over to me, and I'll drop the charges. Fight me, and I'll make sure everyone believes you're an abuser. Your choice. I felt sick. Dad, why didn't you use this in court? You could have proven you were innocent. He shook his head sadly. It wouldn't have changed anything, Anna. Your mother had already made up her mind. But more importantly, I didn't want to drag you through any more pain. You were already dealing with so much as a teenager. You needed support, not more family drama. Tears welled up in my eyes. Everything I thought I knew had been a lie. I'm so sorry, Dad. I should have trusted you. Dad reached across the table and squeezed my hand. It's okay, sweetheart. I'm sorry, too. I know I worked too much when you were younger. I should have been there more, Dad said quietly. We sat in silence for a moment, both thinking about everything that had just been said. Then, wiping my eyes, I remembered why I had reached out to him in the first place. Dad, there's something else I need to tell you, I said, my voice shaky but determined. Grandpa. He gave me the company for my 20th birthday. Dad's eyes widened in surprise, then softened with pride. Anna, that's incredible. Your grandfather always had a good eye for potential. He must see great things in you. His words filled me with warmth, but I still felt uncertain. But Dad, I don't know anything about running a company. I need help. Without missing a beat, Dad smiled. I'd be honored to help you, free of charge. I'll guide you through everything you need to know. As we continued talking, making plans for the future, I felt a mix of emotions: anger at Mom for her lies, sadness for what our family had lost, but also hope. Maybe, with Dad's help and Grandpa's trust in me, I could turn this unexpected gift into something great. The months flew by, and I settled into my new life with Grandpa. Before I knew it, I was wearing a cap and gown, graduating high school with honors. It felt strange walking across the stage without Mom, Billy, or Jack in the audience, but seeing Grandpa's proud smile and having Dad there made up for it. After graduation, I threw myself into preparing for college. Thanks to my grades and activities, I earned a full scholarship. I decided to major in business management. After all, I had a company to run now. The day I got my acceptance letter, Grandpa insisted we celebrate with some cake and a toast to the future. We were enjoying our second slice when the doorbell rang. Grandpa frowned. Were you expecting anyone? I shook my head, just as confused. When Grandpa opened the door, I almost dropped my plate. There stood Mom and Billy, looking like they owned the place. Mom barely glanced at me, her eyes locked on Grandpa, her face angry. Dad, we need to talk.
Now.
Without waiting to be invited, she marched into the living room, Billy trailing behind. I stood there, stunned, as she turned on Grandpa. Why can't I access the company accounts? She demanded. And who gave you the right to block the capital transfer to our new subsidiary? Grandpa stood tall, his voice calm but firm. Jessica, the company no longer belongs to you. It's Anna's now. Mom's jaw dropped, and for a moment, she looked completely shocked. Then her eyes narrowed as she glanced between Grandpa and me. What do you mean it's Anna's? She hissed. Exactly what I said, Grandpa replied. The company is Anna's now. I gave Anna the company for her 20th birthday, Grandpa said firmly. All decisions about its future and finances are hers to make now. Mom's shocked expression quickly turned into a fake, sweet smile as she looked at me. Anna, sweetie, I've missed you so much. Why don't you come live with us? We've settled in so well in the new city. I blinked, surprised by her sudden change in tone. We have a lovely house, she continued, her voice sugary. There's a big bedroom just for you, with plenty of space for a desk and computer. You could study and work from home. Wouldn't that be nice? For a moment, I felt a tug in my heart. A part of me, the part that still craved my mom's approval, wanted to say yes. But then I remembered everything I had learned and everything I had built here. Thanks, Mom. But no, I replied, surprised at how steady my voice was. I'm happy here. I have my friends, my life, and Grandpa. Plus, I'm starting college soon. The tension in the room was thick as I stood my ground. Mom's sweetness quickly disappeared when she realized I wasn't going to be swayed. Fine, she snapped, her voice cold now. If you won't come to us, we'll move back here. We can all live in our old house, just like before. Wouldn't that be nice, Anna? I shook my head, feeling a mix of sadness and determination. No, Mom, that's not going to happen either. I could see the anger building in her eyes, her fake calm starting to crumble. This was my chance. Mom, I said, my voice steady even though my heart was racing, I want you to tell me the truth. What really happened between you and Dad? Why did you get divorced? For a moment, confusion flickered across her face. Then, right on cue, tears welled up in her eyes. Oh, Anna, she sobbed, your father was so cruel. He insulted me, and he even hit me. I had to leave to protect myself. To protect you and Jack. A surge of anger rushed through me. Stop it, Mom, I said firmly. I know what really happened. I know you set Dad up. You framed him so you could divorce him and take everything. The tears vanished from Mom's face in an instant, replaced by a cold, furious look I'd never seen before. How dare you, she hissed. You ungrateful child. You have no right to meddle in my personal life. She turned to Grandpa, her voice rising. Everything here belongs to me. I decide who lives where and who gets what, Mom snapped, turning toward me again. You will come home right now, Anna, and you will hand over that company to me, where it belongs. I stood there, shocked by the harshness in her voice. Grandpa stepped forward, his face full of disappointment and anger. That's enough, Jessica, he said, his voice calm but strong. You seem to have forgotten a few important things. This property, including your old house, belongs to me, not you. And the company now belongs to Anna. I gave it to her, and it's hers to manage as she sees fit. Mom's face turned pale, then red with anger. She opened her mouth to argue, but Grandpa cut her off. I've heard enough, he said firmly. I'm ashamed of you, Jessica. I raised you better than this. Now, I think it's time for you and Billy to leave. You can't kick us out. Mom screamed. I'm your daughters. Grandpa's expression was unshaken. And Anna is my granddaughter, a granddaughter who has shown more strength and integrity in the past few months than you have in years. Now leave, both of you. I watched as a storm of emotions swirled inside me while Grandpa led Mom and Billy to the door. Mom's face was full of anger and disbelief as they left. When the sound of their car driving away faded, I sank onto the couch, feeling drained. Grandpa sat beside me, wrapping a comforting arm around my shoulders. As we sat in silence, I couldn't help but wonder what would happen next. The confrontation with Mom had been intense, but I knew it wasn't over. This was just the beginning of a new chapter in our complicated family story. The next morning, I woke to the sound of quiet voices downstairs. Curious, I crept down to find Grandpa and Dad deep in conversation in the study. Anna, Dad said when he saw me. Come in, sweetheart. We were just talking about you and Jack. I walked into the room, confused. What about Jack? I asked. Grandpa cleared his throat. I've asked your father if he'd consider seeking custody of Jack. My eyes widened. Really? But how? Dad nodded, determination and hope in his eyes. Your grandfather thinks we have a strong case, especially with what he's found out. Grandpa reached for a thick folder on his desk. Anna, sit down. There's something you need to see. I opened the folder, and inside was a detailed report from a private investigator. As I read it, my world turned upside down again. Mom was cheating on you, I said, looking at Dad, horrified. With Billy. For years. Dad nodded grimly. It seems so. Grandpa pointed to several documents, hotel receipts, gift records, old text messages. Your mother and Billy were having an affair long before the divorce. But how did the investigator find all this? I asked, confused. Grandpa's eyes narrowed. Billy made a big mistake. He threw away his old phone when he bought a new one. Our investigator was able to recover it, and it was full of information. I felt sick. But why go through all the drama with the divorce? Why accuse Dad of abuse? That was Billy's idea, Grandpa said, his voice heavy. According to their texts on that old phone, he suggested she frame your father for domestic violence. It was all a plan to make sure she got everything in the divorce. Tears filled my eyes, but Grandpa wasn't done. There's more, he said, flipping to another part of the report. That phone also revealed Billy's true identity. He's not who he claims to be. He's a con man, Anna. The phone had messages with other women. He targets wealthy women, marries them, and then disappears with their money. Suddenly, everything made sense. That's why he wanted to move the company and transfer all the money. I gasped. He was planning to steal it. Grandpa nodded seriously. Exactly. And I've already confronted your mother with this evidence, but she refuses to believe it. She's in complete denial about who Billy really is and what he plans to do. I sat back, my head spinning. What do we do now? We fight, Dad said firmly. For Jack, for the company, for the truth. Grandpa nodded. I've already contacted my lawyer. We're going to file for custody of Jack and take steps to protect the company. The next few months were a blur of legal battles and emotional stress. Dad fought hard for custody of Jack, and I stood by him, determined to bring my little brother home. The courtroom was tense as Mom tried to make Dad look like a monster, telling lies about abuse and neglect. But her stories fell apart under the weight of all the evidence we had. The judge listened carefully as our lawyer presented everything: the investigators' findings, the recovered phone messages, proof of Mom's affair, and the whole plan she and Billy had to frame Dad. I'll never forget the look on Mom's face when the judge gave full custody to Dad. It was a mix of shock, anger, and maybe a hint of realization that her world was falling apart. The final blow came soon after. When Billy found out that Mom had lost the company, the house, and had child support payments, he showed his true colors. He disappeared overnight, running off with another woman, leaving Mom with nothing but the mess she had created. In a desperate attempt, Mom tried to make up with Dad. I was there when she came to our house, tears streaming down her face, begging for forgiveness. But Dad stood firm. "I'm sorry, Jessica," he said, his voice steady. "Too much has happened. I can't trust you again. Please leave." As the door closed behind her, I felt like a chapter in our lives had ended. It was painful, but also oddly freeing. Life started to settle into a new routine after that. I focused on my college studies, determined to learn everything I could about business management. Between classes, I'd go over company reports with Dad, soaking up his knowledge and experience. He agreed to run the company until I graduated, giving me time to learn without the pressure of full responsibility. Jack, still too young to fully understand everything, thrived under Dad's care. It was heartwarming to see their relationship grow. Jack's face would light up when Dad came home from work, and we'd all play board games together on Sunday nights. We often visited Grandpa, who lived just a few blocks away, and Wednesday dinners became a special tradition. The four of us would gather around Grandpa's big oak table, sharing stories and laughter. Grandpa would tell us tales from his early days building the company, his eyes sparkling as I listened to every word. As I sit here now in my childhood bedroom, which feels like home again, I can't help but think about how much has changed. The path to this point was tough, full of betrayals and hard truths, but it also brought us here a family rebuilt, stronger and closer than ever. I know there will be challenges ahead. Running a company is no easy task, and the echoes of our family drama may linger for years. But I'm not afraid. With Dad, Jack, and Grandpa by my side, I feel ready for whatever the future brings.